Hey everyone, welcome to Rydel Magruder on Double Jump. I'm Leo.
I'm Stu.
And we're gonna be talking Ocean's 8 today.
Yeah, this is a big one, guys. This is the continuation of the Ocean's franchise, and it's an all-female cast.
Yeah, not to mention this is 11 years since the last time we got another Ocean's movie.
It's been a minute.
Yeah, Ocean's 13 was 2007.
That's right.
It's been a hot minute.
Right,
So
and no better time for an all-female cast heist movie to come in.
Yeah.
It's perfect timing.
I think this is the perfect, as we're in the Me Too era, I think this is the perfect movie to happen right
Couldn't
now.
agree more.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Let's talk about the good first.
The good.
I love the cast, man. I mean, I gotta say, each actress pulled their character very well, and I'll say that each of them kind of had their role. Most of them, I would say, about a majority.
Totally. Sandra Bullock completely owns the Debbie Ocean role.
Yeah.
She's smart, she's slick, she's a thief with a mission. It's great.
And Rihanna owns her role too as the techie.
Agreed.
She's great. She hacks into pretty much everything.
Oh yeah, I mean with ease, slices through security systems like butter.
Like
no problem.
Yeah.
A nice surprise for me was actually Awkwafina. She's kind of the newcomer in this cast.
Yeah.
Of a lot of heavy hitters, and she actually kind of stole the show for me. She's funny. She's charismatic. I expect big things from her in the future. I'm definitely going to be looking for her in any cast list coming out.
Yeah, and I think Cate Blanchett also did a pretty good job.
Yeah.
Especially coming down from Thor Ragnarok. I didn't really associate her with Hela in this movie.
Right.
She plays characters very well.
It was quite different.
Yeah.
If anything with the characters in the cast, they were a little underused. I almost I want more.
Yeah.
Which, you know, coming away from a movie, if you want more, that's not a bad place to be.
No, but should we dive into the nitty gritty?
That's the good, huh?
Yeah, well, let's dive into more.
Let's talk about the not so good.
Yeah, I just want to start out with, I think this would have been a great movie without the Ocean stamp on it. I think that they were pulling just a little bit too much from that mythos.
Right.
They relied just a little too much on Danny Ocean.
Yeah.
That was kind of pulling them, and I felt like each actress almost had a stamp on their head that was like, remember, this is Oceans.
Right.
Oceans, Oceans.
I agree. There's a certain amount of looking backwards instead of looking forwards, which was a little confusing. I mean, Steven Soderbergh, who did all the Ocean's movies before, was an executive producer, so you want to link them together. I get that. But they almost beat you over the head with it, especially from the top.
Yeah.
And it's like, look, going into it, the Oceans, we know what that is. It's a franchise, it's huge, it's a star-studded cast. We don't need reminders that Sandra Bullock is related to George Clooney's character.
Yeah,
like,
over and over and over.
We're going into the theater knowing that. Like, back off a little bit. You know what I mean?
And not to mention, this is an all-female cast picking up from a male-fronted franchise.
Totally, and it felt a little unfair, almost like it's a crutch that they shouldn't have had to lean on. And
you compare it to those last Ocean's movies where you had these twists, these turns, you know, they were dressed up as the FBI.
Right.
You don't really tread those waters that much here.
Totally. There is a certain amount of, the cleverness isn't quite there.
Yeah.
They do this a whole setup with the Met Gala, and you kind of know there's going to be a twist coming. And there is a twist, if you can call it that.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more of a reveal. And you know, that's what brought us to the Ocean's franchise with the guys, was this kind of heart-racing, thrilling heist that you're like, I don't know how this is going to turn out.
Yeah.
There was really never a doubt for me how this was going to end.
There wasn't. I mean, the plan was executed, and it just kept going. There was no point where I felt worried for the ladies.
Yeah.
There was no point where I felt like, oh my goodness, they're gonna get caught. They're under pressure. They're on thin ice.
Yeah.
It just went over smooth as butter, and I don't really like that. I mean,
it's one of my biggest problems with the movie is everything happens. First of all, everything happens according to plan, and everything in that plan happens way too easily.
Yeah.
Rihanna hacks into every single system at the click of a button.
And what's weird is she had to do all that hacking, but there's a scene where they stick a camera on a camera, and I wonder why they just didn't do that for the other scenes.
Totally. It's almost like a callback to the old Ocean's movies where they had to like put footage in on a loop, and in this one it doesn't. You have control of the security cameras. I don't know. It was a little weak. Every single person does their job flawlessly.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, okay, where's the drama here?
There's not any.
It's not a lot.
There's not an Andy Garcia character to bring that dynamic. You know, Brad Pitt was
100%.
very digging into Andy Garcia in that Ocean's 11,
100%.
and he came back in 12 ready for revenge.
And he comes back in 13 as well.
Yeah, he does. And that character isn't in this movie.
No, and we don't just mean there isn't an Andy Garcia like prototype. There is no villain
at all.
They're stealing from a company, which there's never a face of it. There's never a guy who you're like, oh, that's the guy who you're going to be hurting by stealing from him. And it kind of takes the power away from the heist.
Yeah, it does.
There was a real human connection of like, George Clooney is going to do wrong by Andy Garcia losing all this money. In this one, it really just doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And so you kind of get this like, yeah, okay, so they stole all this money from Cartier. Great, they have insurance. It's going to be fine. And
not to mention, it wasn't even money. I mean, it was a necklace, which was worth tons of money.
Yes.
But at the end, they ended up having to give it up anyway.
Right.
So it just kind of all went to waste a little bit, in my opinion. And I feel like in Ocean's 11 through 13, they robbed some high quality places. I mean, you got a casino in the first one.
You're going to casinos, man.
And this one was just the Met Gala.
Yeah.
I felt like the ladies could have did a lot bigger than this.
Agreed. It felt a little, I mean, the money value was huge, but the scale of the heist wasn't. There's an interesting scene where Cate Blanchett and Sandra Bullock are talking about, well, what did you want to do? How did you come to this heist? And essentially Sandra Bullock's like, well, I thought about robbing a bank, too cliche. Then I thought about robbing 10 banks, and in hindsight, I'm almost like, you should have robbed the 10 banks.
Yeah.
Like, that would have been cooler.
It just kind of took away from her character a little bit.
Agreed.
Which, you speak of Sandra Bullock and Cate Blanchett, that's something I kind of wanted to touch on.
Yeah.
Their energy is not quite as good as Clooney and Pitt.
And you know what I think the issue there is? Because I agree 100%.
What's that?
I think it's Cate Blanchett. Sandra Bullock honestly does all the heavy lifting in this movie.
I mean, seriously, I mean, we get it at the very beginning. She walks into a store, she somehow eases out probably hundreds of dollars worth of perfume, jewelry, fragrances, thousands of dollars.
It's a great intro to the character.
Yeah, she sneaks her way into a hotel room. I mean, it's like, this lady is slick, she knows what she's doing, and then we cut
honestly,
to Cate
it's
Blanchett.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
like,
awesome.
Sandra Bullock's character, Debbie Ocean, is cool.
By the way,
like,
Debbie Ocean, Danny Ocean.
Yeah, it's kind of lazy.
Yeah.
She can be called lazy. Catherine or Eliza or
Sarah or
Sarah.
something.
Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be whatever.
If she would have been Catherine, you know, they would have been like Katie Ocean. Oh, and try to tie that E in just a little too heavy there.
Yeah, a little bit. And one of the problems, going back to the Sandra Bullock, Cate Blanchett thing, is Cate Blanchett kind of disappears. Once we get into the swing of things and more characters start getting added in,
she moves back.
She moves way back. And at the end of the movie, I'm not really sure why she's in it.
Yeah, I don't think they ever really touch on her character enough to know. I mean, they're friends. We know that much.
They're co-conspirators, all this stuff.
But she almost feels like Sandra Bullock's laggy, whereas Brad Pitt felt like George Clooney's equal.
And George Clooney needed Brad Pitt to make this happen.
He did.
Honestly, Sandra Bullock didn't really need Cate Blanchett. And this isn't taking anything away from the actresses.
No, because they did stunning.
Yeah.
But just the two characters on screen weren't equal. You know, Sandra Bullock was by far way more talented as a thief and as a criminal, at least with what we were shown.
Agreed.
Cate Blanchett, we really only got one scene of her doing something kind of crooked. Yeah. And that's filling vodka bottles with water.
Right, and it's like, okay, is that a con or is that just being kind of a dick?
Yeah, is that just being cheap?
So, and to carry on with this, Cate Blanchett kind of disappears. This kind of unfortunately goes through the cast, and honestly, they all kind of disappear for most of the movie. They have their roles, they have their specific things that they're supposed to do, but instead of popping off the screen and becoming characters that we really like, you're not watching these characters. You're watching, Helena Bonham Carter. You're watching Anne Hathaway. You're watching Rihanna.
At the Met Gala. That's kind of what it turns into.
I was never really convinced that they were anyone other than their actresses, which is fun and light fare. But there's moments in the original Ocean's trilogy where I kind of forget that Matt Damon is Matt Damon, or that Bernie Mac is Bernie Mac,
or
and like,
George Clooney is George Clooney.
Yeah,
like, oh my goodness.
They have distinct characteristics, and they carry that through, and they all have their own little stories and struggles to go through. Nobody really struggles here.
No, I mean, there's not a single struggle really in the movie, and any struggle that they come upon is fixed within 2 to 5 minutes.
Like that.
I mean, there's one scene where they end up getting, they try to clone the necklace in order to steal it. They end up getting that necklace. There's a problem that goes wrong with the necklace, and they fix it within 2 to 5 minutes.
Yeah, and it's a simple fix. It's not even like, let me use my super cool thief skill. No, it's like, really I'm just going to walk in the room, fix it, walk out.
Yeah, I'm making a phone call and it's fixed.
Right. So here's another thing that I think was a little bit of an issue with this movie. There was a lot of missed opportunities in the details. One of the really cool things with Steven Soderbergh when he was directing them, these movies, he would take these really small details and bring them back and make them important and make them part of the story.
Yeah.
And they start off almost there. There's a really cool list. There's like a hit list thing that Sandra Bullock is carrying around. They reference it once or twice at the beginning. It never comes back into play.
And I wonder if that was her plan, because she said she has sat in prison for 5 years to make this plan, which is like, okay, I kind of want to go through, like, I would have loved a montage of her going through the list and saying, you know, here it is, boom, check it off, and it goes to a small little montage of her doing it or the girls completing it. It just doesn't live its life out.
When I was watching this movie, to be honest, I wasn't focused on the movie 1000% because it's kind of, you start to get lost by the end of it. Not because it's complicated, it just didn't really hold my attention 1000%. I started trying to see that list, and there were cool little phrases, like, I think it's something like, do the Cupid, or, you know, little cool phrases that you're like, oh, I think that might be the con man lingo for what the trick is she's doing.
Yeah,
and it would have been
code names.
Yeah, like shop talk for
kind
criminals.
Of lingo, yeah.
I would have liked to see that incorporated somehow. I don't know, something to bring that in. There's a couple other things. Sarah Paulson has a kid that she's on the phone with every now and then.
I think 2 kids.
Maybe 2.
She's got 2 that are
a son and a daughter.
Pretty much control her.
And it's one of those things where the only thing that's ever brought up is her talking on the phone with the kids, but it's never a problem. It's never part of the story.
Yeah.
It's just like an added little thing.
So she just kind of pats them on the head and sends them off.
Moves them away. And it's like, there's a lot of little details like that I think the original trilogy really keyed in on. It was like, we're going to make this part of the characters. And they just missed it.
And they brushed past it in this one. And see, this is why maybe this would have been a much better movie if it weren't an Ocean's movie.
That's a good point.
I mean, if we had just a secret agent movie or a thief or heist movie with all these ladies, come on, they would attract just as many goers. It's a star-studded cast.
You don't need to rely on the
tie
franchise.
Back to Danny Ocean and you know, detectives going back to Danny Ocean. It just was way too much for me, man. It was oversaturated with the Ocean's franchise.
I'd agree.
And I just wanted the ladies to do their thing.
Yeah, and here's the thing. This happened with Ghostbusters as well.
Oh, yeah.
When you bring out a beloved franchise and wait as long as they did, the anticipation really grows.
Yeah.
And honestly, with a movie like Oceans that did really, really well, is well beloved, and honestly, just overall good. They're good movies.
Yeah.
When you bring a movie like this to the table, you're going to compare it to the original trilogy or the original source material.
You're going to have expectations.
And yeah, there's going to be expectations. And if you don't beat those expectations, or at least meet them, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
And the differences become much larger in hindsight. So they really had to knock this one out of the park, and they didn't. It's sad because it's a wasted opportunity. It's a wasted cast. I think it's going to do fine, but it could have been so much more.
Yeah, and you know what? Just to tie it around, I would recommend the ladies check this out. It's just go in there and don't expect it to be Ocean's 11.
Agreed.
Don't expect it to be Ocean's 11 through 13. Go in with a fresh mindset, thinking it's kind of its own heist movie.
Totally.
And you'll probably enjoy it.
Yeah. Here's my recommendation as well is, look, if you're going to go see it in the theaters and you really want to go see it in the theaters, go. You'll have a fine time. It'll be fun. It's not going to be heavy. It's not going to blow your socks off or anything like that. The costumes are great. The cast is great. Seeing the Met Gala is great. It's a lot of fun, but there's no depth.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna go out, I suggest going to a place where you can get a glass of wine, maybe a cocktail.
Yeah, kick back.
It's gonna help. If not in the theaters, get a girls' night together. Hang out, enjoy the cast, enjoy the scenery, but don't make this an event.
Yeah.
It's just not there. It's close, but no cigar.
I mean, you can kick back, grab a bucket of popcorn, and barely even have to focus.
Yeah.
But out of 10, what are you giving this one?
So my rating here, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Sandra. I'm sorry, Kate. Sorry, Anne. I'm sorry, Rihanna. Oh. I'm sorry, Mindy. I'm sorry, Sarah. I'm sorry, Helena. I'm sorry, Aquafina.
You're doing this to all these ladies, man. It's Sandra.
I know. Out of a 10, it's barely a 6. It's barely a 6.
Wow.
Honestly, if I wasn't brought in and like given a good screening on this, I would really regret spending the money I would have.
I'm gonna give it a 6.5.
Okay.
I thought it was fun. I thought it was light.
Yeah.
I don't need to pay too much attention to it, so I could totally throw this on Netflix, get a little bit of work done while watching it, but really still enjoy it. Still enjoy the cool cameos we got at the Met Gala.
That's true.
I think it's about a 6.5. Don't rush to the theaters, but if you do, as Stu said, grab a glass of wine, chill out, and enjoy it. Let us know what you thought down in the comments. Have you seen the movie yet?
Keep that conversation going, guys. Let us know what you think. We'll always respond. We'll let you know. We'll get a good conversation going.
Yeah, we'll see you next time on Rydel and Magruder.